Welcome back, geometry students, and we get to enter a new chapter today, chapter 3. You can move away from proofs for a little while, although they may pop up here too, and we'll get into some actual geometric figures. How about today, some lines and angles? Go ahead and pause the video and try this quiz here. Come back and check your answers. Points that lie in the same plane are coplanar. Two angles whose sum is 180. You guys are good at this one. Supplementary angles. The intersection of two distinct intersecting lines is a point. And a pair of adjacent angles whose non-common sides are opposite rays are a linear pair. Great. Okay, so today we're talking about parallel, perpendicular, and skew lines. So let's look at these definitions and see what we can see in this figure here. What kind of lines are coplanar and do not intersect? Well, those would definitely be parallel lines, right? So in this figure, parallel lines are noted with arrows, right? So a single arrowhead would say that AB is parallel to EF. Double arrowheads would state that these segments, FH and EG, are parallel. We could go to triple arrowheads or another pair of parallel lines if we wanted to, so I think you understand that. The type of lines that intersect at 90-degree angles are, this symbol tells us they are perpendicular. And so keep in mind they intersect at 90 degrees. So EG is intersecting with segment GH. And so there we have a 90-degree angle denoted here. And perpendicular lines, right? Good. And then the type of lines that are not coplanar, they don't share a plane, they got to also have another thing going on. They're called skew lines. They're not coplanar, they don't share a plane, and they're not parallel. They'll never intersect. So, in other words, if we take EG here, then we would have to take a segment or a line like AB in the back. Notice that if they were on the same plane, they would be perpendicular, right? But they're not, so they are never going to intersect, and they are not parallel. They are skew lines, okay? And finally, planes that do not intersect. Planes, imagine two planes that will never intersect, must be parallel planes, right? In this figure, we could name this front face. Let's name it with 3 points. GEF would be parallel to the back face, right? CAB. They name ABE, the top surface of this, what appears to be a cube, right? And the bottom actually they say CDG. Look at this, there's no D in the figure, so let's imagine they meant W. CWG. You might change that here. We find these little typos occasionally in these notes, so when we do, let's make a change so that it makes sense. All right, pause and see if you can come up with the following. There are more than one correct answer to these questions. So in this first case, a pair of parallel segments, you probably want to use segments that have the same arrows, right? So FJ is parallel to BE. This has a single arrow, so BF is parallel to EJ. Let's see what they wrote. Oh, that's the one they wrote. Notice they used the notation for segment is parallel to this segment. A pair of skew segments, if we use, let's say, FJ, let's see what they start with here. Okay, they use BF. So can you name a segment skew to that, BF? How about CD, right? Or GH? Let's see what they named. They named DE. Okay, right here. So BF and DE will never intersect. They do not share a plane. A pair of perpendicular segments, if they give us the first, BF, which segment is perpendicular? You can see by this symbol that it's FJ. And finally, by the way, in this figure, that is the only given pair of perpendicular segments. These other vertices appear to be forming right angles, but this is the only place where it's given. So you really had to name this here in C. And then a pair of parallel planes. Let's see the first plane. If they give you FJH, FJH, it appears to be the bottom, right? And so that would be parallel to, how did you name this plane up here? They named it BCD. BCD. So again, we identify a plane by naming 3 points that are coplanar. Okay, now let's talk about how we can form angles by using a transversal. So a transversal is a line or a segment, line segment, that intersects two coplanar lines at two different points. The transversal here, T, and the other two lines, R and S, form 8 angles. Okay, so where T intersects R, we have these 4 angles, 1, 2, 3, 4. Where T intersects S, we have 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have some special relationships that are formed when a transversal intersects two coplanar lines. There's a special name for angles that lie on the same side of the transversal and on the same sides of lines R and S. In other words, angle 1 is, as we're looking at this, in the upper left of the angles that are formed by transversal T, right? Angle 1 is like which angle formed by the transversal and line S? Angle 1 is in the same position as angle 5, right? So we actually have 4 pairs of, these are called corresponding angles. So what angle corresponds with angle 4? Good, angle 8. What corresponds with angle 7? Angle 3, and so on. Okay? Angle 3 and 6 are going to be examples for this next topic. 3 and 6. Look at that, 3 and 6. So these two coplanar lines, R and S, form like a sandwich, don't they? They're like the bread in a sandwich. Inside the sandwich, we have these 4 angles. They're called the interior angles. And then outside the bun, out here, we have these 4 exterior angles. So 3 and 6 are considered, since they're not on the same side of the transversal, they're on the alternate sides. They're called alternate interior angles. All right? So we also have angles like 1 and 8. Let's look, 1 and 8. They're also alternate, but now they are exterior angles. Okay, they're outside of the bun, right, outside of the bread, and so they're exterior, and they're on opposite sides of the transversal, so alternate. Finally, we have angles 3 and 5 in our next example. 3 and 5 are both interior angles, and they are on the same side, so we say same side interior angles. Another way to describe them is as consecutive interior angles. Consecutive, one next to the other. Consecutive. Okay, so most often you'll hear same side interior, but you should understand consecutive means the same thing. All right, please pause the video and give an example of each angle pair. So for our first, of course, there is more than one option, but what would be the corresponding angle for angle 1? Angle 5. How about alternate interior angle? What would be alternate and interior to angle 3? Good, also angle 5. Let's try alternate exterior to angle 1. Would be angle 7. And then same side interior to angle 3, we would have, good, angle 6. Excellent. All right. Here's a helpful hint. To determine which line is the transversal for a given angle pair, locate the line that connects the vertices. So if we look back here, this one line connects the 4 vertices here, the 4 angles, right, with these 4 angles over here. So that would tell us that this line that's vertical is the transversal. So identify the transversal and classify each angle pair. So angle 1 and angle 3. Angle 1 and angle 3. So the transversal is which line that's connecting these two? Good, line L, right? And it's called transversal L. And we would say angle 1 and angle 3 are what type of angles? Good, they are corresponding angles. How about 2 and 6? So the transversal for 2 and 6 is which line? Transversal N. Good. And then 2 and 6 are alternate interior angles. They're inside. Good. And then angle 4 and 6. Angle 4 and 6. So the transversal that is producing these angles is transversal M, right? And then 4 and 6 are alternate exterior angles. Good. How about here? Identify the transversal and classify the angle pair, angle 2 and angle 5. Just the same sort of question, but with words. 2 and 5. Transversal, what's kind of connecting them? Oh, look here, line N, right? So transversal N. And 2 and 5 would be, can you say it the most common way? Same side interior. Or we could say consecutive interior angles. Very good. Okay, pause, come back and check your answer for the lesson quiz part 1. If we look at segment EH, a parallel segment would be FG. If we look at a pair of skew segments, starting with BF, BF could be skew with more than one. In this case, they're naming EH. EH back here. Good, it's not parallel to BF, and it is not sharing the plane. A pair of perpendicular segments, if we start with CG, CG is perpendicular to, right here, HG, or we could call it HJ even, right? GH, we could call it GH too. And finally, a pair of parallel planes. So if we name ABC, that looks like, as this is oriented, the top, right? So that would be parallel to the bottom, EFG. Good. And then lesson quiz part 2. Can you please identify these things? Pause, come back. A pair of alternate interior angles, EHG, EHG, HG. That angle there would be alternate interior with HGK, right? HGK, which means that this line, IJ, is the transversal. One pair of corresponding angles, you got a lot of choices, but if we start with EHG, EHG again, corresponding to that, we could name FGJ. Let's see what they say. They say FGJ. So again, this is the transversal here, IJ. One pair of alternate exterior. If we name IHE, IHE out here, IHE, then the alternate exterior could be KGJ, right? Or you could name it JGK. Finally, one pair of same side interior. So if we start with EHG, EHG again, same side interior. So HGF, angle HGF. Good. And there you go. Have a good time. Be careful and be sure to check your work.